Welcome to In Touch Crime Beat. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson.
Out of jail, okay? Don't mess up.
And those are the people, those repeat offenders, the ones that go to prison. And
I say we're the #1 rated radio show in the whole country. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth.
Welcome to In Touch with Officer Don and Ray the DA. I'm your host, Jenna McNeil. As mentioned on last week's In Touch, the Fayette Commonwealth Attorney's Office has debuted its new website, and Ray and Officer Don discuss one of the site's most popular features, Kentucky's Death Row. This week, they take a look at another interesting portion of the website, Lexington Prosecutor News. This segment features interesting criminal justice news stories. Officer Don and Ray discuss some of these under the section titled Hot Topics from the Crime Beat. Listen now to learn more about these stories featured here, including Mexico's catastrophic crime report, Colorado's recent legalization of recreational marijuana, and the national debate on gun control. Thanks for watching.
1,000 dead and 27,000 missing in Mexico. What say you to that?
Well, this is the government's attempt to deal with those Mexican drug cartels, and the drug cartels are not going down easy.
Well, you know, let's talk about law enforcement in Mexico, because there is this perception that you don't want to be arrested by the Mexican police, that something bad's going to happen to you when you go to Mexico. The truth of it is, I've got friends that are actually Mexican police officers. They're very, very liberal in Mexico when it comes to how they treat criminals. There are very few things that they'll arrest you for.
Sounds like Kentucky.
Their prison sentences have no length at all for Mexican citizens. They are not pro-death penalty. I mean, you would think the perception, as I said, is it's just the opposite, but the reality of it is the Mexican judicial system has really been non-existent for a long time, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that now. Wouldn't you agree that that's part of the reason everything's so out of control there?
Well, yeah, and the reason, based on what I've read about it, is that these Mexican drug cartels feel absolutely no compunction about assassinating people that rule against them or that sort of thing.
The other issue you have the fact that their justice system is very watered down in Mexico. Also, their law enforcement officers have a reputation of being extremely underpaid, not trained very well, and you sort of get what you pay for. And that's another issue that they're dealing with there. You have the Mexican federal police, which are considered to be the more professional, but then all the jurisdictions and townships, the cops make nothing there, and they have very little training. So you've got the perfect storm, so to speak, for this to happen, and it's happened. I mean, look at this: 70,000 people dead and 27,000 missing. The country's out of control.
That's right.
No doubt about it. So you think we'd want to go just the opposite of that. Here's another story. Private detective security firms get more business as police budgets fall here in the U.S. So what you're seeing is people are outsourcing their security because the government's not doing it.
Well, what it says is that people's safety and security is very important to them, and they're going to, if the government won't provide the services to guarantee their safety and security, guess what? People are going to find somebody else to do that, and that's kind of what's happening. You know, Officer Don, the thing that people are forgetting, and this is what one of my complaints about our legislature, is that they have forgotten the primary role of government is to do all it can to provide for the safety and security of its citizens. If we don't feel safe, then we got nothing. You think about that. For example, if we had this 70,000 dead and 27,000 missing in the United States, what do you think?
Well, you talk to police officers that work the street now, one of their biggest concerns is they feel like they're more reactionary than proactive in preventing crime. And there's several reasons for that. One is staffing at all police departments is at low levels.
That's the point.
So that's one reason. The other reason is there's a perception in the training, this is what a lot of them will say, that they were almost reaction is going to get you in less trouble than being proactive. You know, you had the profiling thing that all popped up, I guess, in the late 90s, and officers say, well, you know, if you're unable to profile criminal acts and criminal activity and criminals, then you really have to wait until they do something before you can intervene and try to stop crime.
It's that dog bite theory.
What's that?
You can't do anything about
A barking dog.
a bad dog until he bites you.
Yeah, and that's a confusing place for a lot of police officers to be in. You know, they want to be proactive, but at the same time, you got to watch it because you don't want to get accused of profiling or whatever. So that's another concern. That one of the reasons we're probably seeing a crime increase, and that's the individual officers. Not a whole lot they can do with that. Here's another story. What will Colorado do when it becomes a center of pot tourism? Now they have voted to legalize recreational marijuana in Colorado.
Sure.
Okay, now there's still a federal law though that says that marijuana is not legal. Are the feds doing anything to?
Well, I think they're not in the business of enforcing that out there. I think that's been the great declaration coming out of the hub of all knowledge and wisdom, Washington, D.C. That was a little sarcasm, you may have noticed. So Colorado is now, let's see, they have just passed. I think Colorado's become the new California.
Well, it's a very liberal state. They just passed civil unions. They passed some pretty significant gun control legislation, which surprised me on the gun control. You think of Colorado, you think Wild Wild West kind of thing, but I think they banned the number of rounds you can have in a magazine now. They're doing more extensive checks. I mean, they've really taken some measures because that horrible shooting that started from that theater shooting that they had there. But there again, you would think Colorado, you would
it's
think
a western state.
Western state, but apparently it's not governed that way. So for
now what's going to happen is they're going to start having a lot of tourism come out there just to smoke dope, and we'll see.
Well, one of the points you make here on gun makers thrive amid gun control debate is that AR-15 rifles. There are back orders of 70,000 or more in this country right now. That means the manufacturers cannot keep up with the demand. Gun makers' revenue has increased from $9 billion in 2007 to $12 billion last year. So this appears to be a reaction to people who's concerned that they're going to take the guns away, is to go out and stock up.
Well, not only that, but if you saw the carry concealed deadly weapon training that's going on, is just through the roof.
Yeah, here in this state.
Oh, yeah. And so the bottom line is you should never, in my opinion, you should never interfere with people's right to own and possess firearms, nor their ability to defend themselves. That's the concern. You're going to throw all these people out of prison or not send them in the first place. Don't you dare take people's right to defend themselves away.
Well, it's a complicated issue because the reality of it is this: there are thousands of gun laws on the books right now. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we know from working within the system is the gun laws that are out there now are really not enforced. I mean, we'll give you an example of carrying a concealed deadly weapon in this state. If you don't have a permit and you're caught carrying a concealed deadly weapon, that basically is mostly being adjudicated, by our judges as a $25 fine, and there you go. And I think you get your gun back a lot of times too. Maybe not, but so it's not really taken. The laws are not taken that seriously anyway. Felons are not allowed to possess guns. If you've committed a felony, then you're supposed to not be packing a gun. But we know that when people are arrested with prior felonies, I know from being a police officer, and when you present that to their probation officer, or whoever, they'll take it before the judge, but more often than not, they're not put back in jail, even though they've committed that offense.
Tune into the following stations to hear the full episode.